Deputy Speaker, I rise today on this matter of public importance, moved by the member for Sandringham, that this House condemns the financial mismanagement and lack of budget transparency of the Allan Labor government. This Labor government have blatantly neglected Victoria, including the Mornington electorate, through their absolute financial mismanagement, lack of budget transparency and disastrous budget earlier this year. Debt is now approaching $188 billion. Taxpayer-funded interest on this debt will soon be $26 million a day. That's over $1 million every hour. And it's also over $180,000 during this 10-minute speech that I will give right now, which is more than most family incomes. There is an undeniable need for funding for basic service delivery. However, because of the Allan Labor government's culture of reckless waste and blowouts, they're not providing the much-needed services and investments we need. Hundreds of constituents are contacting us requesting that Labor fix our roads, like in the member for Mildura's electorate in places like Robinvale, or with potholes and craters in some cases, which are now everywhere, with infrastructure, public transport, schools like the 50-year-old Mount Eliza Secondary College, hospitals like Rosebud Hospital in the member for Nepean's electorate, local sporting facilities and much more. You name it. Surely it is clear to any sensible member opposite, if there are any, that Victoria has been neglected and many are not better off than they were 10 years ago when Labor first came into government. Despite the mental gymnastics and budget opaqueness that Labor tried to engage in, Victorians are now suffering under what will soon be 23 out of 27 years of Labor in power in Victoria, power that seems to have gone to their head. The member for Frankston before asked about what we would cut in government. How about this? Cut waste, cut taxes, cut red tape, cut corruption, cut unemployment rates, cut the amount of potholes, cut ambulance ramping, cut debt. These things have all gone up under Labor, and maybe the member for Frankston has seen the light. He's joined our side of the chamber right now, and he is seeing the light that this Labor government have overseen debt, corruption and more. And now let's go to this debt, something that is increasingly a barbecue conversation.
Members who are not in their seats should not be interjecting.
Himalayan levels of debt. As noted, Victoria's debt under Labor is skyrocketing to $188 billion. Some people have described the debt as a mountain, yet this is unfair as there is no downward slope and no distant peak. Instead, we will potentially have generational debt that will be difficult to pay down. And who do we have in charge of the state coffers? A treasurer with the air of a kid who has just been given his mum's credit card to go to the shops to purchase a few basics, but returns with 5 kilograms of chocolate, packs of lollies and a brand new Hot Wheels set. A treasurer who has doomed this state to its current parlous financial circumstances. A treasurer who says, what's money, what's debt, and puts it all on red. Because that's exactly what the treasurer is doing. He argues, and I quote, as your economy grows, your capacity to service your liability massively improves. That's obvious. It's obvious to all of us. But our economy has been pumped prime by record levels of government spending and waste. So this treasurer says to service the debt, spend more money. Yet experts say that the only way the debt stops rising in dollar terms is by running cash surpluses. And as the member for Sandringham, our shadow treasurer, would attest, there are no operating surpluses forecast in the next 4 years, with revisions since the budget only making the bottom line worse. And Labor, in response, has tried to tax its way to prosperity with 55 new or increased taxes. We've seen increased land tax, schools tax, holiday tax and more. Increased taxes will only push our economy backwards. Increased land tax is seeing rental providers sell up and invest elsewhere, reducing rental stock, pushing up rents and making it even harder to secure stable accommodation for so many individuals, couples and families. On the back of this, we have over 61,000 people on the public housing waiting list. increasing levels of homelessness and more. Indeed, on the Mornington Peninsula, we now have the 4th highest level of homelessness in this state. And that includes people like Con, who are now homeless, living on their van and on the Frankston foreshore, as the member for Frankston is aware, due to Labor's and the member for Frankston's lack of bailing out of Colcan Drive residents who have been victims of Labor's failed building regulations. In contrast, if we were to reduce taxes, such as reducing land tax, people would flock back to invest in Victoria, and ironically, we would raise government revenue. The Allen Labor government is increasing taxes while at the same time cutting essential services like road maintenance, with a 45% cut to the road maintenance budget since 2020, and hospital funding, where, for example, is Pakenham Hospital, or, as I mentioned before, Roadside Hospital's much-needed redevelopment. As well, there have been a recklessness and a reckless use with taxpayer funds, like with the $40 billion of cost blowouts on major projects, or their white elephant $216 billion suburban rail loop. As mentioned, growing debt and interest has meant Labor introducing over 55 new taxes and charges, driving businesses and jobs out of Victoria. As the member for Sandringham pointed out, over 152,000 Victorian businesses closed in 2022 to 2023. And I know the member for Frankston is aware of all those closed shops in Frankston, right in his electorate. And Victoria's new business registrations have also flatlined in comparison with other states. This also means the government has less to spend on schools, hospitals, roads, public transport, tackling crime and more. This includes the Mornington electorate. My electorate has seen little in terms of funding for the environment, public transport, crime prevention and enforcement, schools, homelessness, roads and more from this state Labor government, all because of their financial mismanagement combined with their disproportionate expenditure on Labor over Liberal-held seats, such as we see with education infrastructure funding. We're also seeing negative real wage growth, and the Allen Labor government has no plans to address it. Also on crime, due to Labor's financial mismanagement, we're seeing cuts and more cuts to tackling crime and ensuring community safety, such as with the 1,000 police shortage we have at the moment. In Labor's budget, this included an $11 million cut to community crime prevention, a $466 million cut to emergency management capability, a $34 million cut to youth justice custodial services, and a $37 million cut to prisoner supervision and support. This means less funding, resources and support for police, including Mornington Police, making it very difficult for them to tackle the increased crime wave on the Mornington Peninsula. This, combined with a reduction in reception hours for police stations across Victoria, including Mornington Police from 24 down to 16 hours across multiple days each week, and weak bail laws and consequences, mean police need to keep arresting the same offenders over and over again, which is simply demoralising for them and the community. In December of 2023, the Mornington Peninsula was reported as one of the state's top 5 youth crime hotspots. This has since gone worse. On the weekend, a Herald Sun article showed aggravated burglaries up by more than 17%, vehicle thefts up 30%, stealing from shops up more than 70%, and overall crimes in the Mornington Peninsula are up 22% over the last 12 months. Victims have been left scarred due to the increasingly brazen activities and actions of criminals. Victims are afraid to go home or be home, and children are having nightmares about intruders. Concerned constituents continue to contact me about this increasing issue. At the same time, in contrast, the Coalition today announced a legislated charter of budget honesty, a real-time public expenditure tracker, a Victorian-first intergenerational report to be completed by the newly established Victorian Productivity Commission. In short, we'll be more transparent, we will lower taxes, we'll cut waste, cut red tape, we will be very careful with our spending, we will reduce debt, we will grow investment and we will grow our economy. We cannot trust this Labor government and we need a change.